It's the CalebDMTG Show.
Yeah, happy Friday, everybody. Allied Assault, 2 and a white, instant. Up to 2 target creatures each get +X/+X to let them turn, where X is the number of creatures in your party. So 2 creatures each getting +1/+1 is like obviously not a playable card. I think most of the Party Matters cards start to get interesting. They start to become like vaguely like good enough for limited at 2, and they start to become like great to interesting to great at like 3+. It'll be interesting to see if the party mechanic ends up making people like splash for like random like vanilla creatures and stuff, just to get that extra like rogue in there. Hey Monk D, thanks for the sub, thanks for the 18 months. Monk D says, what's up? What's the card I'm most excited about? Oh, we're gonna go through all of the cards, Monk D. We're gonna go through it all. I'm not gonna go through and pick out a random card to talk about right now. My throat will be very tired at the end of this stream, so I'm not gonna do that. Yeah, I like that, Treskies. It's not a party if it's just you. Q orgy for 1. Untitled broadcast. We should be titled. Yeah, we're titled. How dare you? But yeah, 3 mana instant. If you're doing +4/+4, is this good enough for constructed? I guess. The party mechanic in general seems questionable for constructed, where you have to like kind of overcommit to the board before your cards do anything. Kind of reminds me of tribal mechanics, only the tribe is party instead of merfolk or goblin or what have you. But those tribes have their own ways of dealing with sweepers, right? I wonder if this grouping of 4 select tribes can do something similar. It kind of seems like all of the Party Matters cards are working in like interesting but different ways, unlike actual tribal cards, because they're coming from all these different colors and stuff. Kind of like allies. Need something like Selfless Spirit? Yeah, something like Selfless Spirit. Or like goblins can like survive a sweeper just by refilling their hand over and over. Anyway, there is that, well, we'll get to it later. So yeah, if you can consistently make this +3/+3, I think it becomes actively good and limited, but it's gonna be hard for me to pick it early in a draft. Angel of Destiny, 3 white. Creature Angel Cleric, flying, double strike. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you and that player each gain that much life. So you and the opponent are gaining life with this. And since it has double strike, you're gaining 4 per hit. And they're staying neutral, right? Because they're taking the damage and gaining the life. Beginning of your end step, if you have at least 15 more life than your starting life total, each player, Angel of Destiny, attacks this turn, loses the game. Okay. I wonder if this card's good enough for Bant life gain. Just like a pile of arrows and stuff. One of the cool things about it being an all-win condition is that the opponent can have just like all the life in the world and just have it not matter. I would guess that this sort of card isn't constructed playable because it historically hasn't been constructed playable. It's like usually rare when these sort of things find their niche, so to speak, or like are supported enough to be good. Cool card though. Seems kind of like it's designed for EDH, huh? I think there's a few of those cards coming out. That's all right. Angel Art Protector, 2 and a white, 3/2. When it enters the battlefield, target creature you control gains indestructible until end of turn. Human Cleric. Gotta remember to shout out the creature types with this set. That's okay. Let's just filler, right? Just filler. Archon of Emiria, 2 and a white, 2/3, flying. Each player can't cast more than 1 spell each turn. On basic lands your opponent's control enter the battlefield tapped. So that doesn't stop Amulet, right? What does that stop? I think it's just an obnoxious Thalia effect. It's hard for a 3-mana hate bear to be good enough for Eternal formats. It's an Archon, so it doesn't care about the party mechanic at all. Yeah, I don't know. I would guess that this card is not good enough in any format. But what do I know, right? I don't play Death and Taxes or whatever. All right, Archpriest of Iona, 1 white. For a star 2, Archpriest of Iona's power is equal to the number of creatures in your party. So it's a human cleric, so it's always going to have a power of at least 1. Then you have combat on your turn. If you have a full party, target creature gets +1/+1 against flying until end of turn. Oh, what a nice little aggressive 1-drop. That's sweet. There's definitely party creatures that have triggered effects that come down on like turn 2. So having a playable 1-drop is pretty important. You think this card's a trap? I don't. If you're trying to make party work, you do need 1-drops. You do need to be trying to curve out. Because they say it comes into play, do X, where X is the number of your party, you know? So the more efficient you are at getting party cards into play, the better. And then having your 1-drop, like attack for 2 on turn 2, and then 3 on turn 3, and then 4, and now you're jumping things. Live the dream! Hey, Scooby-Doobies, thanks for the 500 bits there. Right, if party is playable, this is playable. If you're trying to make party aggro work, you're probably going to play this card in standard. Is it going to be good enough for modern if you're doing like a party deck in modern? Probably not. So yeah, I wouldn't rate this card very highly because I don't think party is going to be standard playable. But if you're trying to make it work, you're definitely playing this card, I think. Attended Healer. 3 white, creature core cleric. Whenever you gain life for the first time each turn, create a 1/1. Oh, it's just a rare, and it's a 1-drop, so you're not going to be too excited to play this in limited, because you usually don't want too many 1-drops in your limited deck. But if you can very consistently get all 4, if you can get all 4 in like a third of your games, or half of your games, then the jump ability becomes interesting in limited. Sorry about the double back. Alright, Attended Healer, 4 mana for a 2/3, whenever you gain life the first time each turn. But it's definitely not a bomb, right? You're not first picking Archpriest. 4 mana for a 2/3, whenever you gain life for the first time each turn, create a 1/1 white cat creature token, core cleric. And then 3 mana, another target cleric gains lifelink until end of turn. So it's a 4 mana for a 2/3, not great limited stats. Does have a relevant creature type and does spit out awesome cat tokens. Not a high pick, but not bad either. Value's value, right? Value is value. Extra cool, thanks to the sub, thanks for 26 months. Canyon Jerboa. Just the cutest card ever printed. 2 white. Cute as a button. And not one of those ugly buttons, one of those super cute buttons. 2 white for a 1/2. Creature Moose. Creature Mouse. Landfall, whenever land into the battlefield under your control, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. So it's only going to be attacking as a 2/3, unless you got like fetch lands and stuff. But you don't need very many other creatures in play for the landfall trigger to start looking pretty good. Note that this card blocks terribly, but it will play well in those go wide white decks, as white tends to do. Love it. Love that card. Cleathaven Sellsword. 2 mana for a 3/1 core warrior. So warrior is a relevant creature type, but 2 mana 3/1s are generally cards that I'm not super keen on in limited. The last time Zendikar was around, or I should say the first time Zendikar was around, you wanted like every 2-drop possible in your deck. You would just draft as many Goblin Pikers as possible, and a card like Cleathaven Sellsword would be like a non-embarrassing pack 1, pick 1, just all the 2-drops. Give me all the 2-drops. I'm hoping this version of Zendikar isn't quite that aggro, because usually I'm super not keen on playing this sort of card in limited. Give me that value. I want that value. All right, Dauntless Unity, 1 white kicker. Creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. If it was kicked for 1 and a white, those creatures get +2/+1 until end of turn instead. So it could be like a nice little efficient combat trick, or it can be the late game finisher. In a normal set, this card would just be okay, but kicker's a big thing in this format. And so if you're like not just pumping the team, you're also getting, you know, whenever you kick a spell, get a 2/2 flyer, you know, stuff like that. Can raise its value dramatically. Disenchant, we all know what Disenchant does. Most formats, you can get away with main decking a Disenchant in your limited decks. Especially in Sealed, where there's a lot of pacifisms and stuff floating around. Some you can't, some it's bad. Those are more rare, I think. Myriad Captain, 3 and a white, 1/1, flying vigilance. When it enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on it for each creature in your party. This card's good. Not for constructed, but for limited. Flying and vigilance are both good limited abilities. The worst it's ever going to be is a 4-mana 2/2 flyer with flying and vigilance, which is passable. That'd be like passable filler. And then if you just have one more thing, and it comes down on turn 4, so you've had a bunch of turns to get another thing in play. Now it's a 3/3 flyer with vigilance. And it's not crazy to have a 4/4 flying vigilance on turn 4. Yeah. This card's sweet. Note that the 1/1 counters are an enters the battlefield trigger. So if you're the opponent, you can respond with a burn spell to clear while it's still a 1/1. Amiria's Call. This card got a lot of hype. This card got a lot of people talking about it. 4 white, white, white. Create 2/4/4 angel tokens with flying. And then non-angel creatures you control gain indestructible until your next turn. Kind of an odd pairing of abilities there. The indestructible with making 4/4s. I think you're mostly just looking at the create 2/4/4 flyers, right? Obviously limited bomb, 7 mana to make, you know, Broodmate Dragon. Certainly worth it. Yeah, so obviously it's the limited bomb. The question is like, how good is this in constructed? It is one of the lands where you can pay 3 life to have it enter the battlefield untapped. Usually 7 mana is only a cost that control decks and ramp decks care about. Personally, I don't think this card is bad. I've heard a wide mixture of opinions. It's gonna be one of those things where to know how good or bad it is, you're gonna actually have to play with it. A lot of these flip cards, the ones that have a spell on the reverse side and then they like come into play tapped as lands. They remind me of other card games, or like maybe Mental Magic, where you can play spells down as lands. It's always really nice. Flip lands are hard to evaluate, yeah. I mean, in limited, you're just gonna play a solid number of them, right? Depending on how aggressive the format is, depending on how brutal it is to have it comes to play tap land. How badly you need to curve out. Well, the opportunity cost isn't 0. If you're playing like a super slow control deck, you don't want to have to pay life. You don't want to play like 4 of these and 4 of the other pay 3 life land. And just have all of these cards that aren't even fixing, gumming up your draws. But it does seem pretty free to have like 1 or 2 in your deck, right? Just have some 4/4s in the late game. Kind of like the castles, right? We're just like having 1 or 2 castles is kind of free. Legendary lands? Oh, it's not a legendary. It's not a legendary at all. Yeah, right? You're paying life for a land that doesn't even fix. It's just a plains. You don't want to pay 3 life for a fucking plains, right? I don't anyway. If you can easily pick it up. Yeah, I think I've only seen like I haven't read the whole spoiler, but I've only seen like 1 card that lets you easily scoop up lands in late game, and it doesn't look constructed playable. Did the on-screen chat break? It kind of looks like it. That's unfortunate. Let me try refreshing it. Hey, there we go. There we go. Yeah, the on-screen chat seems pretty important for the YouTube videos, so people can actually see what I'm responding to and stuff. Once this gets thrown up on the old YouTube. I'm glad that got caught and addressed fairly early on. Oh, just the opposite, Lord of Depression. I want people to see what I'm responding to. Otherwise, my comments don't make any sense. We're pretty early in. We're still in the E's on white. Start over. I'm not starting over. Hey, Asymptotic Ape, thanks for the sub. Thanks for 35 months. Glad you're enjoying the stream. All right, Expedition Healer, 2 mana for a 2/2. Core Cleric, Vigilance. Expedition Healer has lifelink as long as you control another cleric. This card's okay, right? It's like kind of fillerish. Again, if this turns out to be similar to the OG Zendikar, where you just want as many 2-drops as possible, then this card's pretty damn great. Put it in a normal set, I'd be like, yep, that's fine. It does have a relevant creature type, right? We do care about clerics. It's common. Farsight Adapt, 3 mana for a 3/3. When it enters the battlefield, both you and target opponent each draw a card. Core Wizard. So normally a 3 mana 3/3 where both players draw a card wouldn't be my cup of tea. But if you care about the wizard creature type, it is kind of nice that white's getting some wizards. Increase the chance that you get a full party together with just 2 colors in your limited deck. Fearless Fledgling, 2 mana for a 1/1. Creature Griffin. Fantastic art. Very in your face. Very, very fearless. Landfall, whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on Fearless Fledgling against flying until end of turn. Yeah, so it doesn't have flying naturally, but it does get 1/1 counters, as well as the 1-turn boost. We've had this landfall, right, without the flying ability. Wasn't it stapled to a rare? Yeah, landfall put a 1/1 counter on it. Rare. Didn't really do much. Certainly a fine limited card, right? Because you play this ideally on turn 2. And then in the late game, you can sandbag land drops for it. Why am I loading up Moto when I'm in Scryfall already? Because I like the Moto search. There's also a chance, sometimes I pause my set reviews to do a little bit of brewing and stuff. I like to have Moto fired up for it. I just forgot to load it before I started the stream. Would it be great with Scape Shift? I guess. The issue is you don't want to put Fearless Fledgling and Scape Shift in the same deck. Like, the best thing that you can do with your Scape Shift is give a creature +7/+7. It's probably not worth casting, right? Because it's not just like, give a creature +7/+7, it's also has that requirement of needing X number of lands in play before you can even do that. I don't know. People definitely messed around with that, with landfall, buff creatures, and Scape Shift in Modern, playing like Step Links and all of that. Definitely tried it. Definitely tried it. Flutter Retreat, pretty exciting card, pretty exciting art too. Landfall, whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, choose 1. 3 and white enchantment, create a 2/2 white cat beast creature token, or put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. Those creatures gain vigilance until end of turn. So someone pointed out that the landfall is basically just Field of the Dead. So you can have a Field of the Dead going pretty early on. Ramp into this on turn 3, the 3 and white enchantment. We've seen something similar to this as an uncommon that spit out 1/1 allies and just bumped them until end of turn. And that was an uncommon. And that one was like borderline good enough for constructed. It saw like some fringe constructed play in standard. This one's a rare. This one's costed more for constructed. And I think it will see play. I think this card's good. Having your landfalls make 2/2s or buff the team, permanently buff the team. +1/+1 counters. Yeah. Is easier to interact with within field though, fortunately. The fact that ECD can exile it, it's a pretty big deal. You can't switch up with Golos. No, you just have to activate the Golos. It'll be fine. Oh yeah, I don't expect this card to get banned either. But I do expect it to see play. Also counterable? Yeah. Yeah, being counterable is a big deal. I think it hits the sweet spot of being good enough without being too good. Alright, Journey to Oblivion. 5 mana, 4 and a white enchantment. Spell costs 1 less for each creature in your party, so potentially 4 less. When it enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent opponent controls until Journey to Oblivion leaves the battlefield. So it's a 5 mana O-Ring, which is unexciting. But it costs 1 less for each creature in your party. Party consisting of up to 1 of each of Cleric, Rogue, Warrior, and Wizard. So by the time you get to turn 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever, it's pretty easy to have at least 1 member of your party in play. So in the average game, the most you're ever going to spend on this card is 4, which is fine. I've spent 4 mana on O-Rings before, and Constructed even, and it's been fine. And if you're ever spending like 2 mana on this or less, that's just a super good rate. Seems good enough, huh? Seems good enough if you are doing the party thing. Pretty much always good enough in Limited. But I can see playing it in Constructed too. Kabira Outrider, 4 mana for 3/3. When enters the battlefield, target creature gives +1/+1 until end turn for each creature in your party. Yeah, so 4 mana for a 3/3 is pretty hill giant-y. Pretty normal filler for Limited. And then the ability's not terrible. Could be really aggressive. Could be part of a real nice aggressive curve. 2-drop, 3-drop, play this on 4, give something +3/+3, serve on in, make it really hard for the opponent to block while you're curving out. The more aggressive the format is, the better cards like this become, right? Kabira Takedown, 1 and a white. Takedown deals damage equal to the number of creatures you control to target creature or planeswalker. And it's also a land! What about that? Yeah, lands that are also spells. The land spell split cards really appeal to me. I like it when my lands do something in the late game, so I'm not just flooding to bejeebus. You think this one seems good? I'm not sure if it's good. I mean, it's not good enough for Constructed, right? Is this a little too situational? But I think it's like obviously good and Limited. You're just like obviously always playing this if you're a white creature deck in Limited. Kitesail Cleric, 1 white for a 1/1. Creature core Cleric. Cleric being relevant. Kicker, 2 and a white. So it's got a relevant creature type and a relevant ability, because Kicker is a relevant ability in this format. Flying, when it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, tap up to 2 target creatures. Huh. So it's just a flying man, right? It's a 1 mana, 1/1 flyer. So you can curve out with it. The Kicker ability does not excite me. You're either gonna have to be getting in some like real relevant damage, or you're gonna be getting like payoffs for just kicking things. Core Blade Master. 1 and a white double strike. Equipped warriors you control have double strike, and it's a warrior itself. Yeah, I mean, just 2 mana for a 1/1 double strike by itself is like almost good enough in equipment decks for Constructed. Obviously good enough in Limited, right? If you're equipping things or pumping things. Hey, Patches, thanks for the 29 months. Thanks for sharing the prime. Appreciate it. Right? Yeah, fencing AC's play. And that's basically what we got going on here. And then there's the additional ability. Which is just more gravy, right? It's more gravy than anything else. You're not really... I don't think you're playing the core Blade Master with the idea that equipped warriors you control have double strike. Because it's already giving you something good to put an equipment on. But it is neat. It is neat. If it ever comes up, it's relevant. Some nice gravy. Core Celebrant. 2 and a white, 1/4. Core Cleric. Whenever Core Celebrant or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. Is this a reprint? It sounds like a reprint, but I don't quite remember it. Anyway, I mean, if you're in the business of gaining life in limited, just obviously not cost for constructed, and obviously not like exciting in limited, but sometimes your deck just needs a Horned Turtle. Yeah, X4s with life gain. We've seen a lot of like very aggressive limited cards. So it's good there's some things to gum things up. Slow the game down a little bit. Legion Angel is kind of interesting. 2 white creature, Angel Warrior. So relevant creature type. Flying. When it enters the battlefield, you may reveal a card you own named Legion Angel from outside the game and put it into your hand. That's a 4/3. So 4 mana for a 4/3 flyer. Angel Warrior. It's Squadron Hawks, but not from your deck, right? It has to be from outside the game. So I guess if you're playing in this in Constructed, you're like pulling a Legion Angel from your sideboard. Makes the numbers really interesting. Like, you're not going to put 3 of this in your deck and only 1 on the sideboard. And you're not going to put 1 of this in your main deck and 3 in the sideboard. Because that's just like giving up too many sideboard slots. But 2 and 2 might be good. Best of 1 card? Oh, it's a great best of 1 card. For Arena? Yeah. (1/1). I think 1/1 is fine too. Especially in a control deck. It's gonna draw the 1 of more often than not. Yeah, cool card. I like the design a lot. Luminarch Aspirant, 2 mana for a 1/1. Human Cleric. At the beginning of your combat on your turn, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. So the first turn you play this, you can juice it up, make sure that it's a 2/2 immediately. Seems fine, huh? Is this card constructed playable? Hardened Scales? Oh, I don't know about that. You're talking about in Pioneer? I guess you play some pretty bad cards in Pioneer. The best generic bear for a white aggro deck. Is white aggro in the market for generic bears, though? You're saying it doesn't pump the 1-drop Star 2 guy? Oh, you're saying that because of the creature type? Obviously, you can put a 1/1 counter on the 1-drop Star 2 thing. You can pump it that way. You think this fits Modern Humans? The Modern Humans cards seem way more powerful than this to me. Like, in Modern Humans, you're getting 1-drops that get a 1/1 counter for every creature you play. And just get super explosive. Or the 2-drop puts a 1/1 counter on each human you control. Instead of just getting 1/1 counter every turn. I would say that this is decidedly not playable in Modern Humans. Like, not good enough. I think it's almost interesting enough for Standard. Hopefully I'm not just like super underrating it. Chat seems pretty convinced that this card is stellar. Does Legion Angel work with Food Chain? Yeah, I think so. Food Chain Exile. It must. Is exile outside the game? Outside the game does not mean exile these days. Right, so like if you imprint something on a Chrome Mox, you can't like wish for it. Yeah. So it doesn't work with food chain. I mean, you can get like a few activations. You can get a few food chain activations out of it. Like you could jump yourself from 4 to 7 or something. But it doesn't look like you can go infinite. Mckinney Ox, 4 and white, 4/4. Creature Ox, landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control. Tap target creature an opponent controls. Ox, also the best creature type in Magic, I'm pretty sure. I mean, this is no Wild Ox, this is no Swamp Ox. It's still pretty frisky. You're not into this 5-drop? I think it's fine. 5 mana for a 4/4. And the landfall helps you get in. Helps prevent the opponent from double blocking it. Oh, the art is super majestic. The plural of ox is oxen. Speaking of ox, look at the next card. Mckinney Stampede, 3 white, sorcery. Creatures you control get +2/+2 until end of turn. And it's a land. This is sweet. So in the early game, it's just a land drop. In the late game, it's pumping the team for the win. This is kind of exactly what I wanted on my split lands. Good in the early game, good in the late game. Perfect. Not every limited deck is gonna want its lands to play tapped, and not every limited deck is gonna value the go widiness of this pump, right? Like if you're playing a limited control deck, like a sealed control deck, and you only have like 10 creatures in your deck, then maybe you don't want to play this card. But any kind of go wide strat's gonna love this card. Ball of the Skyclaves, 2 and white, artifact equipment. When there's a battlefield attached to target creature control, equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has flying at first strike. And then you can equip it for 2 white later on. I've seen mixed reviews on this card. Arilax was calling it a 3-mana version of the enchantment that just gives +2/+2 and flying. I've definitely murdered people with that card though, in Constructed. This card's a little bit better than that too, right? Like the first strike matters if you ever have to block. Blocking does come up. And the ability to re-equip later. Gives a little bit of flood insurance, a little bit of something to do with your mana. The game stalls out. Yeah, I think this card's good. White Demonic Embrace. Is it like that? I guess it's kind of like that. The cool thing about Demonic Embrace, though, is that you're playing it with these huge black creatures. Just these, like, obnoxiously large black creatures. Like, white doesn't have a Regisar, right? So even if Maul was, like, slightly better than Demonic Embrace, and it does have an easier cast cost and stuff, it would still be like a worst card in context of what the color's doing. You're pessimistic for Constructed. I guess white has equipment synergies. Still Embercleave? Well, I mean, few things are. A few things are, right? Mesa Lynx, 1 and white. For a cat, as long as it's not your turn, it gets +0/+2. So on your turn, it's just a Goblin Piker. It's just a 2-mana 2/1, and then on your opponent's turn, it becomes a 2/3 blocker. Interesting card. Not quite as good as just a 2-mana 2/3. Yeah, not a terrible 2-drop, huh? Not a terrible 2. Mary's Binding, 1 white enchantment aura. Enchant creature or planeswalker. Enchanted permanent can't attack or block, and its activated abilities can't be activated. So the casting cost is kind of restrictive for something that is essentially like a worse O-ring, right? Does not excite. Does not spark joy. You're glad this card's a common? Sure, yeah, no, it's good to have. Versatile removal. A common. Do you first pick it in limited? I mean, it depends on what's in the pack. But removal's always good. So like a worse pacifism is still good. I'm trying to think if there's any like common threats that I've seen so far, common or uncommon threats that would take over it. It's almost close with Captain. Anyway. I think you take the O-ring over it. I guess it depends on your deck. Undo Inversion, 6 white, destroy all non-land permanents. Or a land! So again, with that casting cost of 8, the only decks that are going to be interested in this are the super slow control decks and the ramp decks. Uro is in the format, so like maybe Ban Ramp wants this.
Oh shit, what up?
Hey, I'm Trombone, thanks for the resell, thanks for 27 months. Yeah, right? 8 mana is a big oof. Normally this card would cost 6, but it wouldn't have a land drop attached. Do you play this as a land in limited or play 18? It's gonna depend on how much landfall you got going on. Original Zendikar, you were happy playing 18, 19 lands. Anyway. So having land split cards would have been pretty great in that format. It's gonna depend on how fast the format is. Because if you never get to 8 mana, then obviously you'd rather just have a plains, right? But if the stalls ever happen, or if you have enough ramp in your limited deck, limited is a format where getting to 8 mana isn't super crazy. We have Cultivate and Solomon standard, right? Yeah, I don't know. I guess we also have Ugin in standard, but this kills your opponent's Ugin. Can you fetch the flip lands? No. They're a normal non-basic. They don't have the basic land type. You need to use like a Golos or whatever. Wait, does that work? Is that what you mean? Actually, now that I said that would work, I don't think it does work. I don't think you can fetch them into play. Yeah, spell in hand so they can be thought seized or duressed or whatever. And a spell in your library so you can't play them with Oracle. If only we had a spell that could tutor sorceries into play. Paired Tactician, 2 white, creature human warrior. Whenever Paired Tactician, at least one of their warrior attack, put a 1/1 counter on it, 3/2. This card seems solid, right? Attacking as a 4/3 on turn 4. Plenty of warriors in the format. You said Oracle works with Undo Inversion? I heard the opposite. For Oracle of Muldiam. Can we have a confirmation from a judge or something? This chat's telling me that I'm wrong. This is one of the reasons I like doing these set reviews. It's really easy to screw up rulings and stuff. If it says play a card, you can do either. Well, I mean, nothing's gonna say cast a land, right? Okay. Well, thanks for the clarification. Working with Oracle and Crucible and stuff is kind of a big game. Yeah, I wouldn't imagine that you'd be able to cast the spell half from an Oracle. Got you, Dekon. Hey, Gargadon, thanks for the sub. Thanks for 25 months. Oh, and somebody asked about Goblin Charbelcher. Apparently they do work well with Goblin Charbelcher, because the Charbelcher is just going to see them as spells. It'll be interesting to see if that makes Charbelcher, like, suddenly playable in Modern. With all these fucking spell lands. Bounce them when play them as a land earlier, and then bounce them later. Play them as spells later. Yeah. I think that's a strategy that's actually going to be playable in Limited, too. We'll get to that card in a sec, though. That one, Ginja says that the mechanics page makes them think that you can't play the land side from anywhere but your hand. That's what I'd heard. But now people are correcting me. That one, Ginja. I know people are back arguing again. Amazing. Flicker Wisp time. Oh yeah, if you Flicker Wisp it when it's a land in play, I think you get to choose. Wait, you can't choose to have it be a sorcery though. The other side would have to be a permanent. Exile another target permanent, return that card to the battlefield on its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. Yeah, you can't return a sorcery to play. But some of these flip cards are definitely permanents on the other side. You don't get to choose. It always comes in on the front face. The sorceries just stay exiled. Interesting. Interesting. So you don't get to choose with Flicker Wisp, but that could still be like a cool thing. Because I mean, some of these are permanents. So you'd be upgrading a land to the permanent. Whereas if your opponent plays a sorcery face down and you Flicker Wisp, blink it out, they just like get LD'd. Right, yeah, bounce a tap land, get a 4/5 trample Minotaur. It's kind of cool. Not that you want to put tap lands in your Flicker Wisp deck, but... Alright, we already went over Parry Tactician. Parry Tactics! 1 white instant, choose target attacking, blocking creature. Parry Tactics deals damage to that creature equal to twice the number of creatures in your party. So if you just have 1 creature in the early game, it's still dealing 2 damage. That's not too shabby. Usually I'm not a big fan of having too many of this type of effect. The situational removal effect in my limited deck. It doesn't necessarily force damage through. Like a lot of times you have to attack, and then they block, and then you play your thing, and you're not actually getting damage through that turn. And then it can certainly like glut your hand if your opponent's got like a creature that's too large for it to kill, and anyway. Or you don't have enough creatures for it to be relevant. Or your opponent's just like not attacking you. You know what I mean. Situational removal. Get blown out by pump spells. But it's certainly not bad. It's certainly not bad to have 1 or 2 in your deck. It seems like it scales well, which is the point. Speaking of points, pressure point. 1 and a white, tap target creature, draw a card. Fine filler. Not the worst. Prowling Felidar. It's got like a lizard hand in its mouth. That's fun. 3 and a white, 2/3. Vigilance. Is it better than Outflank? Are you talking about the practice tactics? I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters if it's better than Outflank. They're in that same range, you know. You're gonna play them in similar situations with your deck. Prowling Felidar, 3 and a white, 2/3. Vigilance, landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on Prowling Felidar. That's a pretty good landfall. The old permanent buff, huh? The old permanent buff. You don't at least have the 1 land drop. Then a 2/3 Vigilance is pretty below rate. But even just 1 counter, having a 3/4, and then 4/5, etc. Card seems good. Assuming the format's not super fast, right? So if the format's like super fast, then this is too slow. But it looks fine to me. Fine to good. Resolute Strike, 1 white instant. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. If it's a warrior, you can attach equipment you control to it. It looks like there's a couple of different effects in this format. They'll let you equip Hammer for free. This is one of them. Instant, common. Nice little combat trick, huh? Obviously, the more equipment you have in your deck, the more appealing appealing the gravy is. If you have a bunch of warriors and a bunch of equipment. But just 1 mana for a +2/+2 is fine. Seagate Banner, 1 white for 1/2. Core Warrior, 5 mana creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. So I think the main reason you would play Seagate Banner, the main reason you would play this card is just so you could have 1-drop that's also a relevant member of your party, right? A 1-drop warrior. Let you curve out with the party matter cards. Tazri Shelter, 1 and a white instant. Target creature you control gains protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. And then it's also a land. I think this card's fine. I think most of the flip cards that are spell lands are fine. It's gonna be hard to play too many of them because you don't want like 5 comes into play tap lands in your aggro white deck. But 2 or 3 seems totally fine, especially if you get cool late game effects to prevent you from flooding out, while also letting you hit landfall. Shepherd of Heroes, 5 mana for a 3/4 flying. When Angel Cleric, when Shepherd of Heroes enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life for each creature in your party, so potentially 8 life, and you're always gaining 2. 5 mana for a 3/3 where you gain 3 life when it comes into play is just a totally solid limited card. That's a limited card that sees play in like master sets, right? 5 mana 3/3, gain 3 life when it comes into play. This is 5 mana for a 3/4, always gain at least 2 life when it comes into play, which means this is just a great limited card. And then it seems fairly easy to gain, 4 or 6 life. I imagine you could stuff just gobs of these in your limited decks. Like, I don't think 4 would be too many. Skyclave Apparition. 1 white, creature core spirit. 2/2. When Skyclave Apparition enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 target non-land, non-token permanent you don't control with converted mana cost 4 or less. When it leaves the battlefield, the exiled card's owner creates an XX blue illusion creature token, where X is the converted mana cost of the exiled card. Pretty sweet card, huh? Pretty nifty. I'm a little jealous of whoever got to preview this card, because it seems quite good, not just in standard, but potentially in legacy and modern as well. The fact that you're hitting non-token permanents, not just creatures, and when it dies, they don't get the thing back, right? They get a random illusion creature token. So if you're hitting a planeswalker or an artifact or an enchantment with the ability, the opponent doesn't want to kill the creature and then get a random token, right? They want to kill the creature and get their thing back. They want to get their O-Stone back. They want to get their Jace the Mind Sculptor back. And they don't get to. Kind of cool that just like white piddly creatures have an answer to Oko in the older formats now. I'd imagine that there's going to be like one of these in Legacy Death and Taxes. And I could see playing like 2 or 3 in Modern Death and Taxes. Cool card. Obviously good with Flicker Wisp and Vials and all that. Yeah, exiling Uro instead of killing it is pretty important too. Because if you kill an Uro, they just get it back. It's definitely a standard contender as well. That's true. It does have the old wording where it's got 2 different abilities. So if you put the triggered ability on the stack and then blink it out, the opponent's going to get a 0/0 token, which will die. And then their card will be permanently exiled. So if you blink it with Resto while the trigger's on the stack, or if you violate a Flicker Wisp with the trigger on the stack, you get to just permanently exile their thing without giving them value back. Kind of nice, kind of pretty. Skyclave Cleric, 2 mana, creature core cleric. When enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life. It's a 1/3. Also, a land. So if you're into Flicker Wisp, if you're going to play this as a land, and then Flicker Wisp it later, you'll get a 1/3. You'll get a 1/3. It's so good. New Modern deck. Let's go. Let's go. No, in all seriousness, this is not the sort of card that I like in my split cards. If you play this card, you're almost certainly playing it as the front face. 2 mana as a 1/3, enters the battlefield, gain 2 life, core cleric. You're playing this because you care about life gain. You care about the 1/3 body. You care about the cleric aspect. The split lands that I really, really like are the ones that do sicko late game things. So in the early game, when you need to hit your land drops, you play them as lands. And the late game, when you have plenty of land drops, you play like your overrun effect or your large creature. Having your land also be a 2-mana 1/3 doesn't help you against Flood. Really? 2-mana 1/3s that gain 2 life are good against aggro? I never would have guessed. Think of it as my 2-mana 1/3 also being a land? Okay. How is that different from what I said? If your deck wants a 2-mana 1/3, how often does it want its lands to come to play tapped? I guess the argument is that now you get to main deck your anti-aggro hate in your control deck. How many comes to play tapped lands does your control deck want? I guess if you're playing a control mirror, you're more likely to want to play it as a land anyway, and so the land tap doesn't matter as much. Hey, Ragnar Forge, thanks for the sub. Thanks to 8 months. Birth of Meletus invalidates this. Yeah, Birth does something a lot better than this, huh? Birth also thins a land from your deck, which matters in those super long matchups. Thinning one land doesn't matter if the game closes really quickly, but playing multiple Births, thinning multiple lands from your deck is going to matter in those super long games. And this card just doesn't do that. So again, I think if you're playing this card, it's because you care about having a cleric. It's because you care about the 2-mana 1/3 body. And you probably don't care about it being a land very much. Squad Commander, 4 mana for a 3/3. When enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white core warrior creature token for each creature in your party. The beginning of combat on your turn. If you have a full party, creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain +1/+0 and gain indestructible until end of turn. So not bad. If you're curving out with this card, it's not crazy to have like two other party members when you play it on turn 4. And it's always going to make at least 1/1/1, which is not good enough for Constructed, right? Obviously 4 mana for a 3/3 that puts a 1/1 into play is not good enough for Constructed. But 4 mana for a 3/3 that puts 3 1/1s into play is good enough. And then if you play like one more, like say like you play your wizard on turn 5 or whatever to get the full party and start buffing the team, that becomes pretty powerful. So again, it comes down to like how consistently you can get your party together as per whether or not this is good enough. Always going to be good enough in limited. I don't know how highly you pick it. If you are picking it, obviously you're trying to do the party thing. Yeah, the fact that these party matter cards are also coming with one of the creature types already attached makes them seem a lot more reasonable to me. Yeah, it seems really easy for this to be 4 mana 3/3 and then create 2 1/1s, right? And then every once in a while you're getting 3 even with the nutty curve. Smite the Monstrous. 3 and a white instant, destroy target creature with power 4 or greater. It's reprint. It's fine, it's filler. Not super keen on it. I don't even know if there are even any white creatures. Yeah, there's one. There's not a ton of white creatures that it hits. So obviously it's like better against green decks. Being boarded in, if it's appropriate. Assuming you're not playing best of 1. I kind of hinted about this card earlier. Tazim Raptor, 2 and a white, 2/2, flying. Bird, when Tazim Raptor enters the battlefield, you may return a land you control to its owner's hand. So having played a lot of Mental Magic, the way that we play Mental Magic is you play cards from your hand face down as a land. And then we play them as lands of each card type. So if you have a card like Daze, you can then like pick them up later on in the game. And get to reuse a card, which is kind of fun. Looks like you'll be able to do that in this limited format. Play a land as a spell, play as a spell as a land down early on, then bounce it later. This also works well with landfall abilities, right? Just recurring lands for landfall is good, but recurring your late game bomb is also awesome. Like maybe you play this as a land early on, right? Because you're like, when am I gonna have 8 mana? I need his land now. And then you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about burning your Sweet Sweeper, because you can rebuy it later. That's a 3 mana 2/2, and it's a May ability, so you can still curve out with this card. You don't have to worry about having to bounce lands. Kind of a neat little effect. Yeah, red 7. I usually do house rules, where if I can describe all aspects of the card, they'll allow it. And if my opponent doesn't allow it, I usually do much worse. If describing cards isn't allowed. You don't know if it's good? Well, I'm not talking about the card for Constructed, Tazri Raptor. I think it's like obviously good enough and limited, right? A 3-mana 2/2 flyer is obviously good enough and limited. And then yeah, rebuying a late game bomb is really, really cool. Tazri, Beacon of Unity. 4 and a white for a 4/6. Legendary creature, human warrior. Costs 1 less to cast for each creature in your party. And then for 2 blue, 2 black, hybrid. So 2 aura blue, 2 aura black, 2 aura red, or 2 aura green. So either 8 mana or like one of each of those 4 colors. Look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal up to 2 cleric, rogue, warrior, wizard, and or ally cards from among them. Put them into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So this card seems kind of neat. Potentially costs 4 less. 1 mana 4/6 that draws cards. The mana seems challenging. Are you talking about for the activated ability? Because the mana to cast it does not seem challenging. It seems like the opposite of challenging. Oh yeah, because it's got each color in the mana activation. For EDH, this would let you play 5 colors, huh? It's kind of cool. Win more. This card kind of reminds me of that Loxodon, the one that puts 4/1/1 counters on things. Where when you curve out, you suddenly get to, play your 4x for 1 mana. I don't know if I would describe it as win more. If you're playing this in Constructed, it kind of seems like you need to be having more things going on than just having a 4/6 in play on turn 4 or whatever. Bang and sealed. Well, the activated ability is going to be good and sealed, yeah. The game's going to be slow enough. A little harder in draft. We'll see how the mana works out for Constructed, if you actually want to activate it. At what rate are you playing this card? On what turn are you playing it? If you have no intention of activating the ability for it to be good enough for Standard. Probably 3 mana, right? 3 mana for a 4/6. So you play a creature on turn 1 and a creature on turn 2. That's what you get, right? Just a 4/6 on turn 3. Seems good enough to me. Seems sketchy for Constructed. If you think this card is sketchy for Constructed, I wonder if your concern is with the card or with the party mechanic in general. Near the start of the set review, I was talking about how the party mechanic kind of incentivizes you to overcommit to the board and be weak to sweepers. Very similar to tribal decks, right? And tribal decks also do that, and tribal decks also try to be more than the sum of their parts, and so they have like moving pieces that come together when they're in play and try and win the game that way. But the different tribes have their own ways of, being good against sweepers. The Merfolk tribe, for example, just tries to have a counter on the right time on the important turn. And so far, from what I've seen, I haven't read the entire spoiler, I haven't read the entire set, but so far that's been like what I've seen as parties answer to sweepers as well. Just like hope to have the right answer on the right turn, hope to have the right counter. Whereas goblins will just like refill the hand with Ringleader and not give a shit. Things like that. You'd be happily surprised if party became a big thing in Standard. Allies, party kind of reminds me of allies, and allies were always like vaguely competitive. I could see that being a thing, where party's not like dominating Standard, but it's like kind of good, kind of niche playable. That's what I'm expecting.